Was I muted that whole time? Nice. Oh, that was an epic fail. Okay, so we are back from our intermission and back from a minute of watching me talk with no mic, which I will cut out. Um, and if you're on YouTube, there's a whole other hour of this. You guys can check it out. If not, just join in here. We have a second blog that we're covering today, and it is the most recent one this week. We covered the previous weeks in the first hour of the previous before the intermission. So, but everybody else here in Twitch, thanks for staying with us. You didn't hear me before. At least I don't think. Maybe OBS picked it up. I don't know. I'm totally. I told you I'm off my game this week. So, but I'm gonna pass to Seth. She's going to pick us up on blog, the second blog. I think it's number 22, and I will kind of flip us over here.
Yep. All right. So we get the great opportunity this week to cover not one but two blogs. And so now we're going to move to blog 22, which is the blog on roads and travel and the nefarious things you can do to people that are trying to travel on roads. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I was planning to stay at Crown's Rocks and not do very much travel, so the roads in between cities didn't really, they weren't really inspiring me overly much, just because I'm planning to stay mostly in Crown's Rock. But it definitely sounds like a cool mechanic to have us have the ability to upgrade them and make them smoother and more easily traversed. The coolest part to me was the concept of adding in I'm thinking of kiosks in Japan, but the guard towers along the roads, that we can upgrade them for that, just to get those patrolled. That's kind of cool too.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of fun interaction with the political systems, of course, at the very large scale, right? So between nation states, not just on the high seas, which I think will probably be a little less patrolled, though I think there actually were a couple hints at Navy at some point for one of the, at least one of the nations. But high seas are probably going to be a little wilder than the ground. But nonetheless, if you don't have a lot of manpower and resources invested into those roads, they could very easily degenerate into quite the danger.
I think the interesting thing concerning this game, and was something that I was looking forward to as well in EverQuest Next, is that the ability for players to push these servers around and affect it so dramatically means that maybe in one server you've got all these safe roads to travel on. There's all that in your server it's safe that you can go anywhere you want. There's guards built up. The nations have chosen to invest in their road systems and security. And maybe in another server it's like no man's land. You better go with a huge force or you're gonna get robbed and killed and what else. And then other servers, maybe there's a server where just everybody likes the naval aspect and there's a lot of naval guilds. There's ones that provide security. It can be really go either way, which is one of the things I think that is so intriguing about this game and this concept of kind of new AI and giving players the ability to make choices that affect other players, because that's really, when you look at the key difference between this game and other games, typical games, that we've had over the past decade is, your ability to affect other players' experience has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And in Revival, it's going to be much more open door. I think it's going to be a real shock for people, a culture shock if they're just, oh, what is this MMO? I'll try it out, and they're like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? People can just ruin my life. So I think it'll be really interesting. I think each server will find its own kind of sense of balance, and especially the role-playing servers, or I don't want to say role-playing servers, the gold servers with the storytelling GMs are going to be able to keep a lot of that stuff even more in balance. So that might even inspire some people if you try the game and you're playing on a free server and you're like, oh, it's a better experience on gold maybe, so you could jump in. And I think this game would be ideal, with all sub servers where there's storytelling teams in all of them. I think that's the way it should go. But there's got to be that one. I guess there's got to be that one server where all the jerks that only play free to play games and don't want to spend any money go and ruin each other's lives.
Yeah, that's definitely how they should advertise Revival. Revival, the game where people can ruin your life. I just like that there's thought being put into travel, because I'd have to say that traveling is one of my least favorite parts of games, because either it's not immersive and therefore oftentimes it's just not travel. It's like, oh, I want to go here. Okay, I'm here. So I don't think you consider that travel. I think that's just, I don't know, checkpoint hopping. Or it's really boring because it's trying to be too immersive. And so I think that this has hopefully hit a sweet spot. I mean, it's definitely supposed to be immersive. If you need to take your merchandise or just your body somewhere, then you need to get there yourself, or you need to send some other people to take your merchandise somewhere. But at the same time, there should hopefully be enough interesting stuff on your way that doesn't make it a complete hassle. And
Go ahead, finish your thought.
Okay. I am curious to see the maps of the other cities and parts of the world, because so I'm assuming that because this is supposed to be very immersive, that there's not going to be any hand-holding when it comes to finding your way around. And I guess then the way I play the game as someone who is terribly directionally challenged and gets lost constantly, probably wouldn't travel too much. Probably would decide to have, if I was a merchant, people do that for me. So I think that is going to offer a whole other subset of players, just players that love maps, love getting around, love travel, and know the fastest ways to do it.
I think too that it opens the door for people picking this role of being a cartographer or something, and creating maps for people, and creating a lot of interdependency between players on like Seth, you're saying you're getting lost and not having all the stuff, and maybe you just prefer somebody to pay somebody to escort you somewhere, or maybe dabble into the dark side a little bit and pay for the teleportation. Or I think that concept they talked about of the plane of doors or something, that fast travel, there are definitely ways to do it. But I like that it seems they are trying to balance what you're trying to accomplish as far as travel, adding in equivalent risk. With if the faster you're trying to travel, the more risk there's going to be to that. Like I think Sale mentioned, more than likely ocean travel is going to be less safe than a secured road, more than likely. So boats may be a faster way of traveling to some places, but you have the risk of getting attacked by pirates and getting your ship commandeered, and who knows where you'll end up next. So kind of interesting stuff. It opens up a lot of doors. I'm actually interested to know if for any of the developers in the chat, there's not been a lot talked about boats, but will people be able to capture our boats and temporarily control where they go? That is a question I think would change a lot of things.
I don't want to speak completely off the top of my head, but I want to say that you could maybe accomplish something like that. I mean, at the very least, as long as there's a way to transfer people between boats, you could basically just blackmail someone with the destruction of their ship, send a navigator over, and then do it that way. But whether it's more involved than that, I wouldn't know. But I do think there was something in the boat blog about, at least, well, there's pirating. Right, there's economic pirating, seizing ships, destroying ships, seizing their cargo, stuff like that. So I don't think it'd be too hard, based on the sort of ideas that are behind that, to go into hijacking. Now, I kind of want to soapbox on all three things that were sort of just talked about, if that's okay, for like 5 minutes straight, working
Go
backwards.
for it.
Okay, so yeah, so as far as transportation, well, as far as cartography goes and things of that nature, there are, I mean, it's more than just cartography and guides, right? I mean, obviously you could, I mean, hell, you could be a city guide if you want, right? Just learn everything about the city and take people around the city and be like, hey guys, give me 5 gold coins and I'll show you everything cool in here. But you know, I mean, imagine trying to traverse, say, the mountain pass that's in, or you know, that Sky Pass is situated in, and say that you can't go through the city due to either, you know, opposition from those inside it, or, you know, for other reasons, if you're doing something blatantly illegal aside from maybe just being, you know, not of Brogine faith. You know, maybe you find someone who says, hey, I've got a way to go through these mountains that's faster than what the other guys have got. You don't have to go around. Do you trust me? Do you want to try this, right? And so there's this power, you know, there's this balance of you know, what people can offer you and pitch you, and what they can actually deliver, and, you know, the degrees of threat and analysis that sort of you have to consider. You're never not playing. You're always running some sort of, you know, test in your head on what can be done with that. And similarly, and that leads me into the part about travel generally, which Cesar was speaking to, which is that in most games, really, I mean, even immersive travel, if you will, like riding a cart in Skyrim, isn't actually immersive. I mean, it's immersive, yes, in the sense that you're doing what someone would do on a cart, which is sit there. But it's not immersive in the sense of like a player being involved in the game as well. You know, it's the player involved in the world, sort of, but it's not the player involved in the game. And travel is almost universally like this. I mean, fast travel sort of cuts it out altogether, right? You pay for the portal, or you know, use the waystone, and you just jump, and you don't have to deal with the intermittent shit. But if you have, you know, that travel time, and you know, say you're flying around on your mount, even in Warcraft or something, like, you're still not playing. You're just going from point A to B. Sure, you might get like tagged in open world PvP if you know, in WoW, right? Like there are crazy things that people did in WoW with like air mounts and, you know, using parachute items and trinkets and like sky ganking people. It's actually kind of interesting, but like that's the most gameplay you would ever get out of travel, right? The rest of it's just going from A to B. You're not playing, but I imagine in Revival that you're always going to be playing, because the threats will be real. The fact that you could get lost is real, you know, assuming there aren't signposts on the way that you're going. You might find something on the way, like, hey, whoa, what's this oasis, man? I was just trying to get from Kongorai to this other little village where I've got to pick up some buddy of mine, but hey, there's this oasis, I want to go check this out, and then you get lost in some sort of crazy hallucination from, you know, poisoned water and whatnot. And so there's much more play in travel, I hope, at least, than will actually, you know, than would ever have happened in any other game, except for maybe Eve had involved travel in terms of watching your D-scans and stuff. But that, yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll be actual play, right? Either for you or whoever's guiding. And then the last thing,
go ahead. No,
go ahead. I'll remember what I was going to say.
I was just going to say, thinking of that reminded me, you know, of the way we're talking about road security and boats and stuff, and how what you said about, you know, when you're on a ship, it's not just you're not just sitting there, you know, maybe there's some gameplay that happens there, and I get reminded of the Forgotten Realms novels with the Dark Elf Drizzt, you know, there's a whole section of books where he becomes, you know, a seafarer kind of, and he helps out, I can't think of the name of the ship, but he's on this ship, and since he's such an awesome warrior and stuff, the captain invites him to stay on the ship and go on a few tours with him to kind of help defend against some increased pirate activity, you know. And then there's other books where he kind of latches on with, you know, anytime he's traveling somewhere, because of his skills and abilities, they actually pay him to kind of be a, you know, defender or a escort, you know, for that particular caravan. So I see that happening here too, you know, because of these things. You may be going on a ship, and depending on what you offer, you know, what you have to offer, you can be an asset to that ship in a real-time situation that might occur. So I think that's a really cool storytelling, role play element, and even not role playing. For the people that aren't role playing, that's still a gameplay, element that's going to happen. It's this real contextual play that's going to happen while you're, doing stuff potentially.
Yeah, and this is actually a good segue into the last thing I want to soapbox on, which was actually your initial point at the start of the hour about player agency. And so I mean, so we all, people who think about this a lot and follow the game a lot and spend, unnecessary hours, just imagining crazy things that could happen and would be insane to, pull off and play.
I mean, Sarah, you don't spend any time at all in IRC, right? Like, never. I never see you there. Okay, go on.
IRC. I love IRC, guys.
IRC is great.
I really do.
Everyone's
Everyone's
doing
cool.
IRC.
Everyone should just go right now, buy a tenement, get on IRC. We'll talk, we'll party, we'll have all sorts of crazy word orgies. It's great. But yeah, but for someone who just sort of says, "Hey, here's a game client I just downloaded. Let me load into it." We can say, right? We can tell them like, "Hey, you can be whatever the fuck you want to be, within reason. You can go do this thing, right? You want to go, pirate someone's ship? Yeah, find a pirate, do it. Spawn in Kongorai, get going." But for someone, but we can only tell them, right? I mean, I think, for instance, I'm going to use Eve here because it's really the closest thing I have, having not been a UO player and having not been an early EQ player. I don't really have those experiences to draw on, but I do have Eve experience. So in Eve, there are crazy stories of people, hijacking corporations and these mass betrayals and things like that, really high up politics stuff, but also, just like the little hero stories of like, people saving a miner from getting ganked or something like that. And, also there are tons of really interesting, solo vlogs of people that live in wormhole space and talk about all the encounters that they have out in wormhole space and the interesting PvP and cat and mouse gameplay that they have out there. And so you can sort of, for someone who's getting started in Eve, for instance, as a parallel to someone getting started in Revival with no other information, they might not know that you can do these rather interesting and involved things. They might just think, oh, okay, I undock, I target the thing, I click my guns, and it shoots it. Like, great. Or I go harvest, harvest asteroids or, whatever. But they don't, necessarily see that there's much more web, for lack of a better word. There's much more web. It's not these little concrete, tidbits of gameplay. It's like everything is much stickier and involved, and moving one little thing, shifts everything around, and then realizing that you can do that, and then that's essentially what you should do in the game is be a node on this map, and you should just wiggle a little bit, right, and make everything else shake. How do you make people realize that on the outset, right? Without just telling them that you can do it. Like, is there a way to show it? Right at the start of the game, right? New player experience. They log in. How do you make someone know they can do it? I don't know. It's just, I don't have a good answer to this. I'm sort of just thinking out loud. I apologize.
I mean, I've also wondered about new players logging in, how they're going to do anything. I mean, it's open world PvP. Well, I've been told that where you log in should be safer, so you're not just going to log in and then just get killed immediately. But it's not. I mean, that's why they're not even calling it an MMO anymore. They're calling it a meow.
Yeah.
So yeah, the quest. Travel's not gonna be easy, but figuring out what to do is not gonna be easy. I love it. It's not going to be for everyone, and the developers definitely are aware of that. But hopefully, they can implement some things rather seamlessly that will help players. Maybe they don't care. I don't know. Maybe they do care. I feel like the general trend has been, we want this to have this really immersive game, so we're gonna do what we want, and if it's too hard for you, if you can't figure it out, then you can go play the other MMOs, because that already exists, and this doesn't exist, and that's why this needs to exist.
I think too. Oh, go ahead, Diggs. Were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say in response to that, I think that figuring out what to do is not going to be difficult just because of the way character creation works, and you're assigning yourself a backstory, you're assigning yourself tags, and I would imagine that if I'm giving myself eavesdropping tags, the NPCs are going to respond with stuff for me to eavesdrop on. And hopefully, I mean, the other cool thing is that the NPCs have interests. When we go to a place, I mean, just even looking at the map, even if we don't have a home, there should be interesting places that we want to go. And even in Crown's Rock already, I'm imagining stories developing. Like I look at, I mentioned somewhere else recently, I was looking at the nearness of Dema's groceries or herb shop to the barber, and I'm wondering if that's related to Sweeney Todd. And then she's got a bakery in the marketplace, Dema's Bakery, and I'm like, is she getting meat from the barber? What's going on there? So even just the interplay of what's happening with the buildings and what the NPCs are doing in the different buildings. There's a jail here, there's a sheriff there, there's a guardhouse here. I think you just walk into the world and there's gonna be stuff to do. I don't think you can walk into this world and be like, I don't know what's happening, I don't know where to go.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think too, we shouldn't underestimate the other games that have found success that have had, nothing as far as a tutorial or any type of guide. Like, I played Minecraft for a long time, for like 2 years, and I thought that game, there's no guide at all, especially when we were in the, alpha and beta. Like, you go in and, it says, hey, you need a wood axe, you see a tree, it has wood, you start punching the tree, you punch the tree, and that's how it started. And I think that, it's probably not going to take too much for the developers to give some type of mini tutorial direction to kind of get people started and see what's happening in the world, and then, seamlessly, kind of even unaware to the player, just kind of like remove that. Like, maybe don't give the player the option to remove the tutorial, just kind of fade it out slowly, where, they're going to kind of realize that just going up and interacting with these NPCs, they're not choosing to start any quests or anything, they're just triggering interactions by kind of meeting and talking to NPCs. So if they create some type of non-obvious transition, I think that, that'll be all that's needed. I don't think that, I know there are a lot of players out there that maybe they feel totally lost if they go into a game, an MMO, and they don't have a direction of what to do. But I think that's more on, not that, sorry, those two words sounded bad together in that sense. I think that's more about players wanting to, because the way these games are designed, they have an end goal, they have a level cap, you need to reach this level cap, so you immediately want to know, how can I do that the fastest? I need a tutorial to show me how I can do this. If you don't have this end goal, this end game thing, where the game is just kind of persistent experience, you don't necessarily need that tutorial, because people aren't going to come in saying, oh, I need to do this. They're going to naturally be able to kind of pursue things. It's like Minecraft. You go in there, you're not thinking, oh, how do I, do this in Minecraft? Because there's not, you don't see any type of linear progression. You just end up coming in and, trying to do, whatever you want to do, and you don't need a tutorial. So I think that will alleviate some of it, but definitely there needs to be some bit of tutorial lined up for that. So, Mommy was supposed to keep you upstairs.
There should be a
Where's
ton of
Mommy?
stuff. I mean, go. I'll just. Is this going to be the last?
Do you
before
wanna
we go to questions?
Finish it up, because after we'll jump into questions.
Yeah. Okay. So, just a few things. I think, especially if you purchase a room and you've got upgrades that you want
Go
to
get Mommy.
furnish. I mean, it's kind of cool that we're having housing as one of the first things to do. I would think that a lot of people, if they can get houses, would love to jump into the game and start decorating their houses. And some of those things that you can decorate your houses with should push you towards what you want to do. I mean, if you've purchased a storefront, then you're going to want to set up your store and play around with how to set up your store. So I think people will be motivated once they get into the game fairly easily. But one of the cool things, just jumping back to travel really quickly, is I often am an advocate of fast travel, because when devs or prominent players are having a party or some event or some get-together, often that's happening right after a podcast, and the place that we're going to meet up is chosen right at the end of the podcast, and then we're trying to jump in the game so we can meet up with people. I kind of need to get there within 30 minutes, so I want to have the possibility of fast travel. And a lot of people say that fast travel just makes it so that people don't want to slow travel and everybody will only fast travel. One of the cool things in this blog for me, they talked about guard posts, but the other one was the Nodens statues that might come to life to protect spots along the roads. That's another reason for me just to want to go travel. Whatever way I'm going to travel there, I don't need to fast travel there. I will walk or ride a horse or whatever, just so I can see that statue come to life, because that's kind of a cool thing. So I'm not necessarily as keen on having caravans and having to go through the complexity of moving caravans along a road, but I might just walk along just so I can see statues come alive, or what other kinds of alternative protections a road might have.
Yeah, I think, well, the blog mentioned teleports, so that should be, I would imagine that would be fast travel. And then I guess if that's the case, if there's only a couple teleports, you can only fast travel to a couple of places, then those are the places that, for instance, we would be like, hey, come hang out after the live cast. So we're going to go into questions now. And I have some up here. I don't know if everyone else is looking at them. I can ask the first one, and then whoever has them pulled up can go ahead and ask the next one. So Circe. Sorry, Circe. Asks, what elder gods are you guys most interested in following so far, and why?
Well, I can answer that. Brog is going to be the god that I'm following for my main character, Diggs. And I like the idea that there's knowledge, but Diggs is actually also going to be a doctor. So there's like surgeon. There's a housing spot. Brog's Chirurgeons, I think, something like that. So that's one thing that I'll be following there. And then I have my brothel character will be following, and I can't remember the name. It's like Halanthe, who's she's a goddess. Yeah, she's a goddess of consorts and music and dance. So I was glad to discover that. That came out of IRC and got leaked to the forums a couple of days ago. So I was really happy to see that one. That's going to fall in line well with my brothel character.
I'm actually on the way other end of this one. I am not interested. Like, I think all the gods and everything are really cool, but my character is, going to be a total agnostic, opportunist type. I don't plan on following anybody but my own self, and looking for the opportunities in the world that way. But I will definitely love to be playing off of some of these. I know that Brog and this in knowledge of institution of knowledge will be probably very pivotal for a character like mine to kind of pay attention to what these different. I'll have to pay attention to all these different deities because not worshiping any of them means I could be affected by any and all of them as well. So, but yeah, I like the fact. But I don't have a specific one, and not being a Lovecraft lore master, I don't even know which ones I would mention. So,
Cesar, how about you?
So I'm not sure about Elder God, but I really like how they. Why are you laughing? You can just see me getting like excited and thinking about all the different possibilities. I really like the implementation of Nyarlathotep because I think it's I haven't. Okay, this is hard to explain. So the implementation is that this god is going to be feeding like Azathoth and those sorts of guys there with souls. And so I am really eager to see how that happens because viewers know if they read Nyarlathotep the other week, the form that god takes is a pharaoh, or he's called a pharaoh, and he is basically this human form that's out amongst the people. And I would be really interested to see if that's how it's going to be implemented, if maybe you'll run into this guy that's like, hey, come over here, I'm going to show you this cool thing, and then you go over there, and then all of a sudden your soul's gone, and it's fed to a god. That's what I'm most curious about. In terms of what my character is going to worship, I'm not sure of that yet. All I know is they're going to live in Newtonside and probably do some like dirty hipster stuff. I don't know, maybe write some books.
Nice. Nice. All right, so I know I was riffing on Hoenn because I just like Hoenn. I just like Hoenn. I don't know if I'm going to have any involvement with Hoenn whatsoever. I just think he's a really cool dude. Really, really interesting god idea. I like it. In terms, the easiest god for me to follow personally would almost certainly be Brog. I am totally like a raging epistemophage. I consume knowledge like it's my lifeblood. But I don't know. I'm looking elsewhere. Maybe I'm looking to the outside. Maybe.
all right, we've got another question here by Neurotoxin that says, should player housing have secrets within it that eventually can be investigated and lead to more clues about the world? I'll kind of open up on this one a little bit because, it's a little bit related, but I was thinking when I was watching those video, the fly-throughs of the houses, I was wondering if, it would be possible to have any kind of like secret rooms or something like that where it's not obvious. Would be really cool, but as far as secrets that are something that can be investigated and have to do with worldly things in the world, that's another one. Anybody want to chime in on it?
Well, I'm gonna appeal to my memory here. I know that very early on in the life of the forums, I think it was Snipe committed to at least the idea that they may be able to hide things sort of off the books, off the off the sales pitch, right, for houses in houses, right, so that you might get a little bonus or a little something extra, in your basement or your cellar, that you didn't necessarily bargain for when you were setting out to buy your
didn't necessarily want, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe something that you do, or perhaps even more interestingly, it's something that once you find it, you go all in, doing whatever it is that thing is associated with. But yeah, so I know there's at least a desire to do this. Whether how far the implementations will go, what the extent of it is, not sure yet. But I know there's a want for things like that, at least.
Yeah,
I
thought we heard about trapdoors, didn't we? Hear about trapdoors in some of the houses, and some of the houses might have a trapdoor that the owners aren't aware of. That's what I remember early on in the forums. So
I definitely missed that one. That is new to me. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I would love to find out that my properties have secrets. That'd be a cool bonus. But I would also like to see maybe some craftsmen that can put in trapdoors and secret rooms and have that be a feature you can add. Because who knows who's going to need that.
Yeah, that adds a whole nother interesting element. You know, somebody that wants to do something secretive, they need to either learn how to do that themselves, or they have to pay somebody that they trust not to talk about. You know, hey, I put in a secret trapdoor in this guy's house. You might want to go check that out. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and this just struck me now. I think it'd be rather interesting if there were like a Winchester house. You know, I don't know if you guys know the Winchester house, right? But just doors, or
that go nowhere,
and doors leading to nowhere. Yeah, man, just this creepy thing. That'd be so fun. It'd be a lot of work, but maybe in a state somewhere down the line that if you have a high enough madness score, you can see really what's going on. But yeah, so does anyone else have any comments to the?
I'm wondering, aren't the devs decorating our houses for us to start with? Do we want to pull up the rugs to see see extra stuff we didn't know they were? I didn't ask for that.
Nice. Yeah, I think you have the option to have it pre-decorated or go total bare. So, but who knows if that is part of the redecoration package.
Right. So I guess our next question here, we've got a couple from Mother Rabbit. So first, will there be book form Bibles, so to speak? And then there's also a question here about whether roads from, for instance, farms to the city, I guess in Crowns Rock, in this case, whether they'll be lit by sconces or whether someone will need a torch on their person to travel without darkness. That case.
Let's start with the first one with the, I believe, book form Bibles. I'm guessing that's like basically a religious book that kind of details out the tenets to a certain, deity's faith or whatever, or how you practice that. I have no idea on this one. Like, I honestly have no idea what I would even want to see on this. That's definitely an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be... Well, obviously there's pamphlets, right? We know that from the politics blog, that you can publish works and things like that. So I suspect there will be, at the very least, player-distributed religious materials in favor of one deity or another. But yeah, whether or not there's going to be canonical, literature, ecclesiastical literature, I don't know. I expect so, but what form exactly it'll take, don't know.
I would expect to find some form of those in Brog temples or libraries. You'd go to the library to try and find those things. Again, as Sale kind of mentioned, whether they're canonical is kind of interesting. Would two players have the same version of a Bible? I think there's likely going to be some discrepancies there. And some of what we've heard is about different people, like if you're trying to even create some kind of spell book, the stuff that one player finds isn't necessarily going to be the same that another player finds. So while there might be information in stories that are similar, there could be some stuff that's significantly different. We might want to compare notes and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm looking at chat right now. Omboa just said that for sure there will be books that will be written that will be canon. So that kind of answers that. Does someone want to take the next question?
I think Sale had mentioned Mother Rabbit's other one, which is, will the main roads from farms to the city be lit? Will I need a torch for nighttime travel back to my farm? So I think that kind of goes into one of the earlier, I think in our very first show, we were talking about darkness, maybe. I think it was our first show. I'm not sure. We talked a lot about the darkness of the world and, the fact, and they've talked even in their fly-throughs, the developers have talked a lot about how much lighting is going to play a part in things, and I believe the absence of lighting and having a dark, impactful nighttime is something that is definitely something they want to do. You obviously want people to be able to play at night as well, but they definitely, I would think that there's going to be a variance. Sometimes you'll need a torch, sometimes it'll be lit, and that might tie directly into what they just talked about with the road upgrade system. Having lit things, because what was it? What was the book? I can't think of the book that we did. Where some stuff actually cannot exist where there's light. Some of these creeps. So if you have lights up, that means you're automatically safe from certain, ghouls that have to have permanent have to have darkness. So I would assume that's part of the road upgrade system at some point.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm gonna guess that if you're gonna make a specific example of Crown's Rock, that Southgate is probably going to be the most lit, because Southgate and the port to the south are the most used for commerce and for pilgrimage. So that's going to be the most lit out of the three main roads that connect to Crown's Rock. And then within those roads, or on those roads, it's going to be more lit closer to the gates rather than farther away from the gates, due to the fact that the gatehouses will, want light. So that's my guess, But what the rest of it, is going to depend a lot on the actual, how dark it really is and such. But yeah, if you wanted something more specific, Rabbit.
I was just
I'm
going to say,
go ahead.
That's all I was going to say. It depends. And I feel like well, first of all, we're not creating games, so we're not really sure, but, we get the develop answers in the chat when we get these sorts of questions. But I feel like that's our answer to so many things as well. But from the start, I would imagine, Crown's Rock, will certainly be lit in a lot of places, I would think.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Diggs.
Oh, you were cutting out. I thought you were done talking. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Diggs.
I expect Crown's Rock to be fairly well lit. I'm expecting gas lamps and stuff like that along the streets. We've been seeing torches, though, in the homes, which is kind of interesting. Instead of lamps, it seems like at least the tenements probably and the cottages are more likely to have torches, and even the next step up, those houses seem to have torches mostly. So that's kind of interesting. But I've kind of been expecting kids running around lighting the lamps outside for nighttime. How we do roads out in the wilderness between cities is going to be really fascinating, and whether or not we can get lighting systems out there as we upgrade those roads will be interesting.
Yeah, as far as the in-city, too, I think, mentioned in the most recent live stream, they talked about people being able to blow out your lights, and that is going to be an impactful mechanic because of the creatures we mentioned earlier before, and other things. There are other things that happen, in darkly lit places, so that lighting is a huge thing in this game. I'm pretty excited about it. Mother Rabbit had another question here. Because of the very good questions before, I'm assuming it's not trollish. Is the game done yet? And it's definitely not done yet. It's in the very beginning, so I'm assuming you weren't trolling. If you were, you were successful. But somebody else want to ask the next one?
Sure, I can read it. It's from Legendary Neurotoxin. Should we see goods and people and creatures from regions outside the gameplay world, different continents, for example, or should we only see things local to the gameplay area?
Well, people, yeah. Definitely people from other... Well, I don't know if this actually technically extends... we don't have a sense of the land masses yet. We don't know what technically counts as a continent, what technically counts as such and such. So the terms are a little shaky here. But yeah, you'll definitely see people, at least, especially in... Well, maybe not as... Basically, yeah. Because of trade, because of pilgrimage, because of all sorts of things like that. People from all over the place are going to be going all over the place. And that means goods from all over the place are going to be going all over the place, naturally, for, selling things. Like a spice trade, for instance, in colonial times. So, But animals is an interesting one.
I think I might know this. Don't know this, but someone on a thread was talking about starting a circus, and I'm pretty sure. I always run the risk of not knowing, being able to pull it up right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure a developer responded at saying that there's no reason that couldn't happen. So I guess if you can capture an animal or a creature, then you could see creatures in one part of the world from another part of the world. And then, like you said, like people, yes, goods, yes, I would imagine, because we have the trading.
Well, it's funny. I might have been mishearing the question at first, but I was thinking more so like that the animals part maybe referred to invasive species, and now I wanna hedge this because I know that the ecology of the game is not a true ecology, simply because it's too costly to implement a true ecology, and because designing a true ecology that works in a game for the game is not easy to do, and the devs know that, and so they're doing a few steps down from a true, proper, like completely, logistical growth and everything ecology. But I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see invasive species. Maybe storyteller provoked invasive species, or at least storyteller implemented invasive species at different points in the game. Like it would be something that people could notice and then use as a portent, of other things happening in the world, a sign of perhaps, something bad to come.
Kind of reminds me, of what we were talking about in the first hour of the show about the different creatures and the way they look. I think that it plays into this too, having these different, abnormalities where you see a creature that shouldn't be there, whether it's a mutated type creature or whether it's a creature that just shouldn't be there, period, will play into, different areas of where you shouldn't go or where you want to go, check it out, investigate, different things like that. But that was definitely a lot in the first hour, Neuro, so if you're looking for more answers to that, the first half of the show has a lot of that. Next question, I thought this was kind of interesting by Figment from Ilphonic, asked, what does LFR stand for in Revival? So that's...
I know. LFR stands for Looking Forward to Revival, and that's what we all are, folks.
Maybe on that note, then we should go into our shoutouts and close out.
Yeah, I think we do.
Some nods?
We have time probably for one more. Do you guys want to answer? Let's do. Let's do Cersei's. You want to do Cersei's one more? Yeah.
Let's do Cersei's.
All right. So Cersei had one more question here. That was: will Rangers or Scouts be able to go map new paths that can eventually become major roads? And that, I think, was talked about a little bit, hinted to some definitive level in the most recent blog of, for gold servers, or no, maybe was that the podcast? I'm not sure. I can't remember where it was talked about.
It was the blog.
The blog, yeah.
The blog. And then in the answers to player questions on the blog.
Mm-hmm. And that is for gold servers specifically. As of right now, the plan is only for gold servers for that, but I think it would be, I don't see any reason based on what they've kind of been planning and designing of the game and of different skills and abilities. If somebody is going to be an adventurer, ranger, scout type, it would make sense for them to have that ability to, flag areas for road construction. Maybe the lead ranger or head of the Rangers Guild of a city is able to actually flag and map out roads for that city, future roads and stuff like that. So, but I think a lot of that stuff too will happen organically because people are going to be traveling with intent and purpose, and the most traveled ways are going to be the ones most beneficial to upgrade with secure speed of travel and things like that. So, I think there's definitely a mix for it. You might get some creative ability to make roads, but I would think a lot of it's going to be kind of predetermined by what everybody collectively chooses to do in the world.
Okay, so I guess we should talk about... Well, first of all, we're getting the past episodes up on YouTube. There was some difficulty with that, but those should be up soon. I was going to say that at the beginning of the 2 hours, but now it's just as good. So you can watch, this is episode 7, so you can go and watch episode 6 and episode 5 on YouTube soon. This will be divided into 2, I think, so you can watch that if you're, I don't know why you'd watch it again, but actually you should watch it again because it's great. So our story for next week is going to be Whisper in Darkness. Whisper in the Darkness. And we just thought that would be a fun story to look at. Today I posted a thread for a discussion of the story, just because we know a lot of viewers have been reading and we don't always get to get your feedback on the stories and your commentary, and we really like doing that. Sometimes it's hard to pick up everything in chat as we're doing this. So if you want to comment on any past story, you can go to the discussion and comment there. But especially we'd like to see what your thoughts are for this story that we're reading this week, so we can maybe talk about your thoughts on the episode coming up. And Velux had some news for next week as well.
I wanted to give a quick shout out first to Seath for the art that is being done there. It's in the forums. You guys can find it. If somebody could drop that in the chat. If not, I'll drop it as soon as I get a chance to. But I actually have a couple pictures posted up here on the overlay in the stream for you guys. You can see the one on the left is kind of a character sketch that they've done, and I love the outside border work. There was a few images of that in progress, was very good. And then the right is actually that person's self-created avatar colored. Very cool artwork, and they are taking, I believe they're taking commissions for, people asking, can you draw my character? And I'm not sure if they're, obviously if you can donate, do donate if there's a way to do that. I'm not sure, but very cool community thing. Get involved in that. It's pretty cool stuff. But I wanted to shout that out. We've been wanting to for a couple of weeks and just haven't got around to it, so I definitely wanted to get that in there. But other than that,
And who will be on next week?
Oh, yes. Next week we actually will have Kedron on with us for the first time. He was almost going to be on this week, but we had some changes up, and we figured it'd be better, for this long 2-hour one. I'm sure you guys don't want to see Kedron for 2 hours, right? So, no, but we have him for next week. It's going to be really cool. We were hoping to get him this week, but it didn't work out. Next week he will be here, and our topics for next week's show, I believe, I'm not sure. Did you guys have that set up? Let me open it. I know I have it open here, but next week's show is scrolling down. The next week's blog is Guilds and Secret Societies, and I know, I'm not sure, is Kedron writing that blog? I'm not sure who's writing that blog. Maybe they can. Snipe is writing that blog, but I'm sure Kedron will have a lot to say about that. He was talking about it even in the last live stream a little bit, so he's very passionate about that. But it'll be a good show. So that's the big thing coming up for next week. Other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. My brain's scattered. I was lost for like 2 weeks. I don't know.
Well, I have a heads up. Next Friday's Theory Forge, I'm gonna have Cheshire from the forums on as a guest, and the topics are early access, modular staging, and housing. So I'm gonna be kind of referencing Revival quite a bit, I hope, even though it's a general chat show about MMOs. But fans of Cheshire on the forums, check out our live cast on Friday. That's 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
And also, too, for anybody, if you didn't catch, there was a lot of things that happened in the past 2 weeks since we had a show. There were a couple blogs, there was a lot of forums, there was that podcast, and we've talked a little bit about all these on the show, but go back and check those things out if you haven't. It's a lot of information, especially the 2 fly-throughs. They did a lot of talking, too, before the first one and during shows of, I think they answered questions between switching houses all the time, so there's a lot of great information in that. So tune in for those, watch the replays. And then definitely tune into there. I think they have another one coming up this week, right? Another one. They're going to show some more housing. Is that the case? I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm off. I don't know. But I don't know when the exact time is, but that is it, everybody. I think we are going to cut it off. Thank you all for coming, and thanks my co-host here for coming in and supporting everything, and we managed to survive another episode it was a great episode, so thanks you guys, and
with madness.
No madness yet. We're not anywhere close to the plane of madness, so success. But thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you next time.